All right. Looks like we are live over on YouTube. Good morning, everyone. Hope y'all are doing good. We're going to go live on Instagram here as well. Wait for that to kick up here. Good morning, Instagram as well. All right, we're live on Instagram, live on YouTube. Back for another coffee break, another week. So we'll have this one. We'll have the next one. Let's see. I think it's like, what day is today? We'll have two more, and then the third one from now, I'm on vacation, so we won't have a coffee break like 3 weeks from now. But as we wait for some people to roll in, give you all a quick update on some disc releases that should be happening this week. They might be happening next week. One of the two, they're in hand, so we have them. It's just a matter of like when are they going on the site. A lot of discs. First off, we got a MVP restock, not a full MVP restock, but it's like a kind of like hodgepodge of a few different MVP molds. It's a decent size, like it's quite a few discs. We also got some MVP custom stamps in. I believe we got custom stamps on the Rhythm, the Echo, and the Glitch. If I'm not mistaken, the custom stamps will definitely be up Friday. The restock, I don't know how much the restock will be up Friday, but yeah, we'll have some MVP hitting the site. There's also we got some new fractal plastic from Prodigy. Not sure if that's hitting the site to this week or next week, but we've got fractal PA3s, fractal A2s. We also have the brand new MX2 from Prodigy came in. The MX2 feels incredible, and the fractal plastic, quite frankly, feels incredible. So super excited about all of that. And then we should also be getting in the new foundation hats, which I don't have one on me, but the ones everyone's been asking about that we've been wearing for a while now. They're the dad hats that say Foundation Disc Golf that are like the like washed look, almost like my hoodie. So super excited about that. They should be coming in this week, but we might not put them on the site till next week because I don't know exactly what day. We're going through a local apparel person, and I don't know. I think they told us they'll be ready Thursday, so I don't know if we'll be able to get them up Friday or not. But that's a bunch of stuff that's coming either this week or next week, so super excited about that. We also have some upcoming trips on the calendar. There's a surprise trip next week that I'm not going to spoil because it's for a brand new series that we haven't announced. We're leaving next Thursday and Friday though, so I don't know. Pay attention to like Foundation socials because I don't know if we'll be posting stories while we're where we're going and while we're collaborating with the frisbee golfer we're collaborating with. But regardless, just pay attention because that series is coming very soon. Like I said, we're traveling next week, so super excited about that. And also, you probably saw on Foundation's Instagram that the Bogey Row battles are coming back. Trevor and I are officially coming out of retirement. Right now, the poll is looking most likely like we're going to Denver, Colorado, which is super exciting. So hopefully we'll be able to link up with Jesse from Trash Panda up there, play some awesome courses, and see what discs actually fly like at elevation. So a lot of upcoming trips coming up because the new series that starts next week will end up being 3 or 4 trips throughout the rest of the year. And they're going to be some pretty awesome trips. So we're super excited about that. Like I said, though, I don't want to spoil what that is because I have a feeling we're going to want to make a big deal about it. So pretty sweet. The voting is still going on. Shay says, vote for Emporia, make them suffer summer in the middle of nowhere. Emporia would be awesome. We'd get to tour Dynamic Disc Warehouse, check out Emporia State. We'd probably play Eric McCabe for the Bogey Row Battle, and those courses down there are awesome. So yeah, now some behind the scenes stuff of like what's going on about or going on at Foundation. One of the things that we've been working on kind of behind the scenes is I've been clarifying our mission and kind of what drives us to do what we do. And I've been working with, Trevor, Brad, Jason, Brody, different people to kind of lock in our mission statement. And because one of the big driving factors I've noticed as I've been reading, and trying to really like lock in like why does Foundation do what we do, why do we exist, what gets me like super excited and gets everyone here super excited. And one of the things I feel like it's always been a part of everything we do. I've always talked about how important this is to growing a business, to what we do day to day, but it just like for some reason was never a part of our like mission statement, was basically the community that we're building and both internally and externally and providing for people. Because like Foundation Nation, obviously it's like we started it almost as like a cringe joke type thing, but then it stuck. And so it kind of at the end of the day provides an escape for people that's fully built around this common passion we all have for disc golf. So both internally and externally, like that's what this community where people will show up to Music City Open and people walk up to me like I'm their best friend. That's awesome. And the reason that happens is because of the type of content we put out and the way that we're just real with our content. Like we don't flip a switch when the camera comes on and we're different people. So then when people meet us in person, we just instantly connect. And like that community that we've been able to build is really what separates Foundation, I think, from a lot of other retailers and a lot of other um, content creators and stuff like that. And it's what drives us because it gives meaning to what we're doing, right? Like we've had different people reach out to us, and I won't like say specific stories, but stuff where like disc golf's pulled people and our videos are kind of the driving factor for disc golf getting reignited in their life to pull them out of some really dark places. And like for a silly challenge video that we go out and shoot to have that type of impact on someone's life is what drives us each and every day. And the fact that like Grip Lock we're able to constantly keep the sport exciting for people who are already in it and into the pro scene, and keep them involved and invested where they might not have friends that are watching the pro scene, but they have us. That's the type of stuff that like gets me fired up and gets everyone here fired up. And the reason that we all love what we get to do is because of that community, but it was never really a part of like our mission statement. So we've been clarifying and putting that together. So super excited to have that coming out here soon. We've also increased our focus on our customer experience in general. Our customer experience, in my opinion, has always been pretty great, but we just transitioned Jason into his full job being focused on customer experience, which is awesome, instead of packing orders, because before it was probably close to 50-50. And Jason does a phenomenal job with our Patreon, with our customer service, with all that stuff. And so now his time, energy, effort, and focus can all be on making sure y'all's experience with Foundation is as good as possible on all fronts. And Jason's the perfect guy for that. So super excited to see kind of what comes out of that. And then I'll tease, we're working on two or three. I don't remember if we've announced one or not. So I'm gonna just say three big projects behind the scenes that will hopefully be able to start teasing with some actual details here soon. One of them will probably be ready within probably this time next month. It'll be fully released, fully out in the public. But the three of these, I think some of them will really control the future of the business, in my opinion. I think they could be really big parts of what we bring to the community and really big parts of the way people interact with us. And so I'm super excited about these. We'll call them the big three. Again, part of me feels like we already announced one, so it might just be the big two, but the big three sounds better. So super excited about all of that. So that's another little peek behind the curtain of what's going on here at Foundation. Before we get into the Q&A section, I recently found this podcast through another podcast I listen to. I always listen to the Nick Bear podcast because I'm a huge BPN guy. As you can see the flag behind me if you're on YouTube. If you're on Instagram, there's a BPN flag behind me. Huge Nick Bear fan. And so I listen to pretty much all the Nick Bear podcasts, but he releases one episode a week. When I'm running and stuff, if I'm listening to podcasts while I run, I fly through that. And he always talks about this podcast called the Founders Podcast. And so I started listening to that this week, fell in love with it. It was awesome. The first one I listened to was basically about a dude who was a financial genius, but like basically used it to just steal a bunch of money from people. Really interesting podcast. If you ever watched like American Greed on CNBC, it was kind of that vibe. I think his name was Yvonne Kruger or something like that. Really fascinating podcast. But the second one and the third one that I'm now listening to have all been about Disney. And what was crazy to me is, so I've always been a Disney fan. You can see my Mickey Mouse ears in the back here from the Disney Marathon and stuff. But I never really knew much about the man, Walt Disney. And so the first podcast was all about how Walt Disney built Disneyland, which was the first Disney World, Disneyland. and that was like what he considered his greatest achievement. And the fascinating part of this, so if you don't know, basically he needed funding. He sold like everything he owned, but obviously you need a lot of money to build a park as drastic and extravagant as Disneyland. And so the idea basically he came up with was he went to Walt Disney was world famous at this point, right? He was already the animator, already had the studio, all that stuff. So he went to all of these different television networks because everyone wanted a Disney show, right? He went to them and was pitching them this idea of essentially a behind the scenes show of the building of Disneyland, more or less. And what he wanted to do was use the rights of that show, selling it to uh, a broadcasting network to fund the building of Disneyland. So essentially, the show that he was going to create and the show he was selling was about building a product that the only way he was going to be able to build it was by selling this show to someone. So ABC was the one that ended up buying it. And you can actually find these episodes on YouTube. I started watching it yesterday. Fascinating, because episode 1 is basically Walt Disney laying out his vision for Disneyland. And like when you know the behind the scenes is like the only way Disneyland was going to happen is because ABC said yes and gave him millions of dollars for it. And so what he did was over the next, I think it was like 8 months or it might have been longer of the show running, it was all behind the scenes and him like explaining and casting this vision for Disneyland to the American public. And then when Disneyland opened, that was a live show. That was like the grand finale of this series called Disneyland. And it was a live show. And that live show, funny enough, I think at that point, the USA, I think they said had 160 some million people and over 90 million people watched this live show. But all that to say, basically, how Disney built Disneyland is way more achievable for entrepreneurs now than ever before. Because for Disney to get that type of funding from content, right, he had to go to like television studios like ABC, CBS, I think turned him down. I think MGM Studio turned like a bunch of these different ones turned him down. But he had to go to them and pitch them on this idea of basically a behind the scenes, what we would call nowadays a vlog almost, of building out this thing. And nowadays with entrepreneurs, we have access to that through YouTube, right? And on a much smaller scale, it reminded me a lot of like, without really thinking about it, that's kind of what we've done at Foundation. Obviously, we didn't build Disneyland. We're on a much, 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 much smaller scale. But if you look at over the last 5 years, like we've thrown some money at advertising here and there. Most of it hasn't really worked. But we've grown from where we were in 2019 to where we are now, basically all through content creation. And what's fascinating is our marketing, we get paid to do marketing for our site because our marketing is basically all through YouTube videos, all through different outlets that we've been able to monetize. So like we have basically a reverse marketing budget where like we get paid to market for our site, which is what Disney was doing. Disney with ABC, he went to ABC and pitched them this idea that was literally all to market Disneyland, right? That was literally the whole idea. And he got paid to market it and then caused the like largest traffic jam in Orange County history when it opened because of how popular it was because of this show. And nowadays with social media and so much people's attention being focused on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of that, entrepreneurs don't have to go to a studio and pitch them on this is what I want to do. You just start a behind the scenes vlog of what you're building. And then you've seen this with so many different channels that have been able to do it. It was really, I don't know, it was just a fascinating thing to think of like, that's just how so many businesses operate today. But like Disney, this is like the 50s, so far ahead of that. Like YouTube was not, the internet was like 50 years away, much less YouTube. And like, that's just what you can achieve now without having to go to an ABC or CBS or anything like that. Cause you don't have to pitch people on your idea. You just have to pitch the audience on your idea. So fascinating thing. Another big takeaway that I think we're going to try to implement was basically we've thought a lot of behind the scenes as this happened, right? Like most recently, we moved into our new space, right? We move into our new space, all the hype, excitement's there. Then we release the behind the scenes after, and we use the hype from the event to drive traffic to the behind the scenes. What Disney did was reverse. right? He released a series of behind the scenes leading up to the big thing. So it was almost real time what was going on for Disneyland leading up to the grand opening of Disneyland. So I think we're going to try this for one of the projects we have going on that's going to be coming this fall. I think we're going to do a lot of behind the scenes work and a lot of behind the scenes video and release these like behind the scenes series that then lead up to the grand release of this piece of content we're working on. And we're just going to test it. We're going to see, because I mean, obviously, like I said, much different than building Disneyland, but concepts typically apply. And so I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited to try it and release the behind the scenes first, so people can kind of peel back the curtain and see what's going on, and then hopefully that gets them excited for what's to come. So, pretty cool idea if you're interested in that type of stuff. The Founders Podcast is phenomenal. He basically reads all these biographies of all these world famous entrepreneurs and people who have built crazy businesses, and then does podcast summaries on them and gives his input. So, really enjoyed it so far. But all right. Wrap that up. Let's hop into the Q&A section. I know I missed some questions on Instagram. Ask them again if you're still in the chat and still have a question you want answered. Big Disc Energy said, I like what you're saying, but companies don't want to take risks like that anymore. They've attempted to do TV shows, but no YouTube stat is really transferred over. I don't know fully what you're saying with that, but what I'm talking about is like a company like where Disney was at. They were venturing into a whole new area, right? The theme parks didn't exist. Theme park was an idea created by Disney essentially. And so like Disneyland was basically a grassroots operation, like a grassroots build. He was basically just building a business from nothing for Disneyland. And then so that is how he funded it. So it'd be more like, it'd be more like if we were going and, doing whatever. Or you're saying a company like ABC. Yeah, no, but you wouldn't pitch it to ABC. I think you would go just straight to like a behind the scenes vlog of this is what I'm building out. Like imagine how massive if you could go back and watch Steve Jobs on YouTube building out Apple. Like that'd be crazy. And so you don't have to have that middleman of ABC or anything anymore, because YouTube operates that middleman and you don't have to negotiate with YouTube. Basically, once you hit enough viewership hours and enough subscribers, it's just monetized. So you just go to YouTube, post it, and the audience decides if they have enough interest, which is also a great way of testing an idea. Because if you're posting a bunch of content around this grand idea you have and none of it gains any traction, might not be a great idea to start a business around anyways. But Tyler Hedge said, any chance of having foundation fitted hats? We've had them in the past, so we should definitely bring them back. I think they sold pretty well before. So yes, there is a chance. When, I don't know. Sad Joe Wright said, best lapel microphone for on the course content creation. There's a lot of really good ones right now. I don't really know which one I would say is the best. I know that we used, and still we don't really use lapel mics anymore, but the Rode mic is the one we use for like ad reads. Back in the day when we did lapel mics for our actual videos, we did the Boya mics. I think I forget which ones Trevor just bought for his channel, but they sound good. I know people have had a lot of success with the DJI ones. Lapel mics, the thing is, like, most lapel mics are going to sound better than just like your phone's internal mic or anything like that. And if it's just you, then like you can get a relatively cheap lapel mic and it's going to improve your quality. But I would watch YouTube videos and test them. So like find one that's within your budget and then just type that name of that into YouTube and listen to it and make sure you like how it sounds. Ben Casaza says, do I like camping? Yeah, never really go, but I like it. Hunter Kyle, return to the Blade Polo, new design, please. We've been talking about not necessarily the Blade Polo, but we've been working on some like jerseys, some like fully sublimated dry fits. So I think we're gonna go that route. But I won't say the Blade Polo won't return. We'll probably use the same company that we used to make those Blade Polos for the jerseys. So yeah. Go down on Instagram a little bit. Simon said, "What's your favorite Disney World park?" Big Animal Kingdom guy. I'm a big, probably Magic Kingdom. We typically, whenever we go to Disney, we go to Magic Kingdom to start every day, and then go to Animal Kingdom one day, Hollywood Studios one day, so on and so forth. So I'd have to go Magic Kingdom. Total Lefty said, "Any chance on opening a store in Nashville or Austin for bigger branding?" Um, Not in the near future. Not in the near future. We have 2 other locations kind of in mind if we expand that we would hit before we hit either of those. I'm not gonna say never because I think those 2 have great disc golf communities and some awesome courses and stuff, and Foundation Store would do great there. Um, but yeah, not in the near future. Tyler Boddicker, what is disc golf missing right now? I mean, the number one thing that I think a lot attributes to is just eyeballs, just the amount of people watching. Because I think the more people that watch, the easier it is to monetize. The easier it is to monetize, the bigger the purses get. The bigger the purses get, the better the competition gets, and the better the DGN product and all of that can get. Um, and it's going to require a lot more eyeballs if DGN ever did consider going free. So, kind of a cop out answer, but eyeballs is the biggest thing for sure. Oh, Jason said Hollywood Studios is his favorite. All right. Jason's a bigger Disney guy than me, so Jason's spoken. Hollywood Studios is the best. Shay recommends Rode and Ceramonics for whoever was asking that lapel mic question. I've never used Ceramonics. Rode is what we've used. They're good, but there you go. Carson Jewett said best running spots around Lynchburg that's not LU's campus. I love the Poplar Forest Trail in Windhurst. It's about mile and a half end to end. If you like switch and run to the road, you can easily get 2 miles end to end. But it also dumps out into either Windhurst on one side or these back neighborhoods on the other side. So I've ran as much as like 7 miles out there. I think that's my that's where I run the most is on that trail. But Blackwater Creek's also a good time. My car just got broken into there once, so I haven't been back. Bear Bite said, "Are you going in on GameStop and AMC?" No, I saw they're doing their, people are all jumping in on it again. I don't really do day trading or stuff like that. I think that's just too risky. I don't have a high risk tolerance. So my investing strategy is very much buy and hold solid stocks that I know, index funds, ETFs, and a lot of like high dividend paying stocks. Um, and I like to follow a stock for at least 3 to 6 months to really kind of see its true value, and look at the history of the price before I jump in. So when GameStop, AMC, and different like penny stocks, get super hyped, I'm okay missing out on the crazy return because there's also the risk of you buy it at the top and it all crashes down. So not getting in on those, but I have seen it. It's fun to watch. It is fun to watch. Um, a lot of hype about Chris Natar finally hitting 1,000. Yeah, it's a historic day in our sport, historic moment. I think a lot of people, it's weird position we put ourselves in because like we go hard against ratings on the pro tour, but like this is a big moment in history because like whether you love ratings or hate ratings, when someone does something that has never been done before, that's an awesome and incredible moment. And plus, to me, the gold standard has always been like 1,000 rated. Like to me, that's where rating should stop, in my opinion. Is like once you hit 1,000, then it just says like 1,000 plus next to your name. That way, because like for most AMs, then ratings still matter. And then on the pro tour, who cares? That's kind of where I've always sat. And so for Kristen to get to that level is incredible, phenomenal, and yeah, big day in history for disc golf. Shay also said, "Who's the ringer from Liberty you employ? You and Trevor best shot dubs versus him in London, so we can see what the hype's all about." Funny enough, so this guy is we've employed him for a while. His name's Clayton Lewis. He's a little over 1,000 rated. He is, I kid you not, the best putter I think I've ever seen. like legitimately, I've seen a lot of pro tour players. He puts and he puts with darts. He just pours them in from everywhere, and it's crazy. So if you missed it, he just did a video with Trevor fixing Trevor's putt. And funny enough, you should mention that Shay. We're sponsoring him playing Worlds. He's going to be playing Worlds this upcoming August, and so to kind of help fund his entry fee, we're doing some content with him. And the first piece of content we did was Trevor and I played doubles against Clayton at New London Longs, and it was very tight battle. So we'll just you'll have to wait and see. That'll probably come out. I don't know when that comes out. I don't know if that comes out this week or next week or when that is, but it's electric. It's electric. Um, and his putt was on that day. We'll put it that way. His putt was on that day. So, yeah, he's very fun to watch play. Jared Self said, "Do you think Foundation will ever get into gaming again?" Maybe. I don't want to say no. It would just take the right person. Like if Silas got super pumped about it and wanted to get back into it, 100%, he'd have our support. But I don't think Trevor and I will. Just from it's tough, having families and playing games. I've been playing a lot of Nintendo Switch golf recently because I hooked that up to the TV in our bedroom. So after we put Luca down, I go in there and get a quick 9 holes in. Fun game. But that's a lot different than streaming. Streaming takes a lot more effort. So can I explain the disc golf rating system or get Connor to explain it on the new disc golf stats segment? That's funny. Um, no, not really. I mean, more or less how it works is uh, every the ratings are based. They claim it's based on a course SSA, but the course SSA, which is basically what 1,000 rated on a course, is determined by the field that's playing the course that day. So it's really, from my understanding, based solely on the field that shows up. Once you've played a certain number of rounds, the PDGA ratings has a good feel for how good you are. So they've assigned you a rating, and when your rating's bold, you are now what's called a propagator. The propagators are the players that are going to determine what the rating is for that round, next round, whatever. So you have the field of propagators, and basically how they play affects what the rating is. Each stroke, depending on the course, will be somewhere between 5 to 10 points per stroke. The easier the course, I believe, the lower the stroke differential, or that might be backwards. But regardless, basically, that's how it's determined. So where it gets interesting or weird is like if you're playing a local tournament and there's a guy who's 1,000 rated, right? And a guy who's 850 rated beats him, that can really screw up ratings because 850 rated player, how ratings are now, it takes basically the sum of all of your rounds and averages them. It weighs the ones that are closer, more recent, a little heavier, and there's a standard deviation. If you're 2 standard deviation off, it throws that out. So basically, the outlier round of how bad it can be gets thrown out. But the basic standard deviation is 100 points. So if I'm 900 rated, I have to shoot 800 rated to be thrown out unless I've been playing consistently enough. Then that might get to 875 or something, but most disc golfers aren't consistent. So my big qualm with the ratings is that it doesn't really show people's ceilings. It just shows this like generic average against a wide variety of fields that is like all over the place. And so let's say that I could be a golfer that's 950 rated and I could be legitimately capable of shooting 1040 golf, but I'm 950 rated because I could also be capable of shooting 900 rated golf, right? And the 1040 happens way less frequently than the 900, whatever. So I'm 950 rated. Well, if I show up to an event, I might pop off and shoot 1040 rated golf. And the guy who's 1,000 rated might shoot 1,000 rated. But since I'm 950 and I spanked him by 4, then that round might only be like 1010 rated, depending on where he falls. So in my opinion, I think one of the quick fixes to ratings, and I've got a DM that the PDGA is actually looking to implement a bunch of different stuff that I think will really help ratings and could really fix it. But one of the big things that I think is it should drop a lot of your lower rounds and be focused more on what you're capable of. So like if you're a player who is capable of shooting 1020 rated rounds and you have enough data to prove that, you should be closer to 1020 rated. And then like I think that's more how a rating should work. So it shows like what players are capable of, not what they just average. Um, because then I think it would be a truer tell of like you wouldn't have this jarring person in MA2 who's wildly inconsistent, and then they are like 900 rated and show up and shoot 1,000 rated golf. Like, well, if they're capable of shooting 1,000 rated golf, I just think they should be closer to 1,000 rated because, like, at their best, that's what they are. That's how I think it should work. I think that would be at least a truer tell and help everyone. Um, but it's not how it is. So hopefully that made somewhat sense. Do I have a favorite disc golf course in Georgia? It used to be WR Jackson. Hopefully it is still WR Jackson once the redesign's done, but I don't know. Let me get caught up on Instagram here. Okay, morning, Kurt. Let's see. Pocket spaghetti? I don't even know what the heck that means. Okay, a lot of conversation going on about ratings now. The original Wii Sports had a frisbee golf game. Yeah, that would. We've never made a video on it. But it would be fun. Ratings are perfect for AMs compared to the buddies, not pros. Yeah, no, the rating system as it exists, I think is the rating system as it exists, like I think is great for AMs. Like when Nick Carl moved down here, he was from Massachusetts. I obviously lived here. He was higher rated than me, and he was like 980 maybe at the time, and I was like 960 or something like that. And when he came down here, the first several tournaments, I beat him. He's way better than me now. Back then, he probably was still technically better than me. He's had a few off tournaments, and so I'd always chirp him about Massachusetts ratings being soft. But it was a fun way to just like compare, like when my buddy from college would go back home and they'd play a tournament back home the same weekend I'm playing a tournament here, and you like look at your rating. It was an easy way to just like compare each other and trash talk. Like it was just that's a really fun stat to have, and it's a fun metric to like keep trying to get better. Where like if you're in the trenches in tournament play, then like worrying about your rating and trying to get it better is a lot of fun. The Pro Tour though, like now before there was like caps of like you need to be 10, 15 rated before you can ever make a certain level of tier sponsorship. There were tiered registrations based on 1,000 plus rated, and like it was used a lot for stuff like that. It's not anymore because the tour now has tour cards, and there's a process being put in place of how you qualify for a tour card. So if you're a touring player, you have a tour card. So ratings on the tour just don't matter anymore because also week in and week out, the best players are playing each other. So there is no, oh, well, Calvin was over here and he shot 1070 while Paul was over here and he shot 1050. So Calvin had a better weekend. Well, no, if they're on tour, they're playing each other because the best players are on tour. So I think that's a big thing of why ratings on the modern day on the professional level matter a lot less is you don't have the best players in the sport all spread out. The best players in the sport are all in one place playing each other week in and week out. So why does the rating matter? Because you can just look at, well, Andrew Presnell beat the Field at Champions Cup. It doesn't matter what his rating was and that it was lower than you would have expected. He beat everyone there. He played great. Like that's the stat. You don't need a rating stat for that. I think that's the thing. Jared said if the cutoff's at 1,000 rated, what would be the metric to rank people if they aren't on tour? I mean, I think there's only like 300 some players that are 1,000 rated plus in general. So we're talking about a very small portion of people. And to me, that like most of the questions about ratings is like everyone's goal is to get to 1,000, and once you hit 1,000, then anything beyond that's just like if you're a 1,000 rated player, if ratings are accurate, you're good enough to go on tour. So like you can go to a Q Series event and test it, right? So to me, that's why like nothing above 1,000 really matters per se. What do I think of the Discraft Swarm? I'm really excited to throw the Swarm. I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it. What I'm hoping I'm hoping it's a Buzz OS with a little bit more. I guess glide's the right word. I don't necessarily know. I don't know how to describe it. The Buzz OS just doesn't quite do what I want it to do, so I'm hoping it kind of fits that slot. 'Cause I think that could be a really awesome slot. I'm really excited for that we're gonna get the Tour Series ones in first, it seems. That's really exciting. You can actually pre-order them on our site still, but haven't had a chance to throw it yet, so I don't really have a take on it. Eric said, "Any theology parenting book recommendations?" Unfortunately, no. Um, I haven't read any, uh, parenting theology books. Golf uses the average of the top 8 of your last 20 rounds, meaning that you're 80th percentile, close to what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Deshaun Kretzer says it weird having your own office with a door and everything after having the last office set up forever. It took an adjusting period for sure, but I like it from the fact that like I have phone calls and different meetings and stuff like that. And like before, there was no way to like escape to like take a phone call, or like if I took a phone call at my desk, I was sitting just next to Trevor, Silas, and Connor, and so like they just had to be quiet while I was on the phone, and like it was just like a it was weird. Or my other option was I just like went outside, so I ended up taking just a lot of phone calls just in my car, so it wasn't rude to them. Whereas like they just had to be quiet while I do it. And then like when we'd have people come in to meet about us running a tournament or sponsoring an event or whatever, like our only spot to meet was on a podcast set. So they're like, was it a, oh, come into my office for us to meet? We also have a conference table now. So if we're all meeting about something, we have a conference table to sit at. So it's very nice. Um, and to be honest with you, like most, my door is open pretty much unless I'm recording or on a call. My door is open and I can hear everything. And so like I just hop into a conversation if there's one going on. So the vibe hasn't changed too much in my opinion. But it definitely took some adjusting, getting used to it. Philip Saul said, "Why do you need any other stats then if you should just go by what place they finished in?" My point is, so like circle one X putting, fairway hit percentage, strokes gained, tee to green, all of that stuff like tells the story of the round, right? Of like, oh wow, this person was able to shoot 17 under while only putting 65% C1X. Or no wonder this person shot 15 under. They were 75% from circle two. Or they threw the disc really well, they just couldn't putt. That's why they didn't score. Like those stats tell the story of a round without you having to watch it, right? Like you could see, dang, if Brody would have just made, you know, 85% C1X putts instead of 60, he could have been top 20 or something like that. The round rating is just on the Pro Tour, like it's just comparing if the whole field, if all the best players in the world are in one field, the round rating from that round is the exact same stat as the score. Because like the best score is going to have the best rating, the worst score is going to have the worst rating. Like that stat's pointless because you have the score. That stat only matters if um, like if what happened this weekend was a regular occurrence, which it isn't anymore, where you had a chunk of the top players at Las Vegas Challenge, you had a few players over at the Copenhagen Open, and you had a few players at Masters Cup. That was very common. Rewind like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that was super common, right? Where you have players not necessarily always facing each other; they were spread like that every weekend. That's when ratings were important, was because like you needed to see what Jesse Niemanen did compared to what Connor Rock did compared to what Ezra Robinson did. But on a week out basis, the best players are facing each other on the Pro Tour. So the rating stat is pointless there because it is the same stat as the score if everyone's in the same field. If they're in different fields, then the rating stat matters. But if they're in the same field, it's the exact same as the score. If that makes sense. What's in the bigger room office across from you? That's storage for my brother's coffee shop. So they store like green coffee, um, stuff like that in there. So that's not technically our like electrical panels in there, but the rest of that room is not technically ours. Jared Self said, business question, do you outsource your web development or do you have someone in-house? It's a mix. It's a mix. So I was actually a graphic design major in college. So a lot of the basic web design stuff I handle. Um, and then if we have something more complex we want to tackle that I'm not comfortable doing or just don't know, then we will outsource our web development. But probably like 85-15. I do 85% of it. We outsource 15% of it, somewhere in there. Um, but yeah. This would be too much but fun to see. You could have 4 ratings. Score performance being one of them, but that could have some sort of algorithm for putting, fairways, and driving performance. So this is actually let me see if I can pull this up over here. Because what's interesting is Edwin Stats, who does stats for Tour Life, and then he does stats for Grip Lock, like some of the stats for Grip Lock. He does on these like when people are coming on the Tour Life, he does these like player profiles, and in it he uses their stats to give them a like overall like a Madden rating, which is super fun to see because it's like statistically backed up Madden ratings basically. And so like for instance, Simon Lizotte has a 97 scoring, 98 power, 94 accuracy, 94 scramble, 90 putting, putting him in at overall of 95. Um, I believe as low as it goes, like if you're on tour, your lowest stat can be a 70, and then it can get up to 100, I believe, is the range. And so like Presnell, you have a 82 scoring, 80 power, 94 accuracy, 85 scramble, 78 putting for an overall of 85. 80, it says 86 is the MPO average. So like super fascinating stat there. So like I think those are really fun. And Edwin Stats, shout out him. He does a lot of fun stats for this and stuff like that. So all right, we're gonna take like one more question here and wrap it up. Okay, Alex says, what are some of your favorite keepsakes on the shelf behind you? Probably the top shelf is my favorite stuff. So on the right, this like shopping bag. So on Instagram, it's here. On YouTube, it's that. That is it's from Shopify for 100,000 orders. This fun little thing they send out when we reached 100,000 orders processed through our site. Little milestone. So that's fun. The play button up there is Foundation's 100,000 subscriber play button. The Mickey Mouse ears are from the Disney Marathon when I finished that. And then the Grippy is from my Tilt Ace when I got shot of the year in 2022. So I would say that's probably my favorite stuff. This signed picture down here is JJ Redick, my all-time favorite Duke player. The discs on the bottom are a mix of like collectible and just random discs, and the rest is kind of fun trinkets. But I would say the top shelf's probably my favorite stuff because they're just different achievement based stuff. But all right, that's going to wrap up this week's coffee break. I really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. We'll be back again next week for another breakdown. And hopefully I'll have some more details on at least one of those 3 big projects I was telling you about. Hope you'll be able to start teasing that next week. But yeah, that's it for this week. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. We'll talk to you again next week.